Hi, my name is William Rovirosa. I'm going to be doing a presentation today on minimum wage and hopefully answering a question of do we need minimum wage so that companies do not take advantage of their employees? First things we're going to be getting into is, why is this a controversial topic? So controversial topics are usually topics that have, a strong opinion on both sides. And this is definitely one of those topics. Minimum wage is something that has a large impact on our economy, as well as as a large social impact on everyone involved with our economy. So, you're talking about people's livelihood, money in their pockets, how they're supposed to feed their family. So this is a very, very emotionally charged topic. So it's very easy for people to get very emotionally invested in the outcome, which is a big factor in why it is controversial. A few of the other factors are the fact that this deals with a lot of low-income households and low-income families and has a direct impact on those. And then the fact that it has a large potential to help reduce poverty. There's also multiple possible positive and negative outcomes. So it's a topic that needs to be discussed for sure, but there's definitely some strong opinions on both sides. We're going to be getting into first the arguments against minimum wage. So first thing, the arguments against minimum wage have to do with the fact that it does uh, add to inflation. So inflation is something that is occurring regardless of minimum wage or not, but as you raise minimum wage, it definitely does increase the speed of inflation. Another thing is the operating expenses for businesses. What that means is that, if you own a small business, the way that the labor market works is, you're not able to pay someone what they're necessarily worth. You have to pay them minimum wage. So if you say, you have a position that you'd rather have two people working for $5 an hour, but minimum wage is $10 an hour. Now, instead of having two low skilled employees for $5 an hour, you must just now have one low skilled employee for $5 an hour. Um, it does also have a large impact on increasing the cost of living. That kind of goes hand in hand with inflation. And then the potential for job losses. So as minimum wage is raised, because it does need to be raised with inflation, because it's a big topic currently. But as it gets raised, that means that these businesses, if they cannot afford to have those employees, they either have to hire them or as employees, leave, they have to halt hiring. It just makes for less jobs being available for individuals who need them. Another thing is the increased competition for minimum wage positions. What that basically means is there's going to be more people going after those positions. If they're, all minimum wage positions are a higher dollar amount and your previous job that you had is now paying the same as minimum wage, might want to quit that job and go get a job that's a little bit easier because you're making the same amount of money. Next, we're getting into the arguments for minimum wage. So we're going here, and big thing is the improved standard of living. So like we talked about that is, raising minimum wage hopefully will have a great impact on people who need it, people who need that money, families. It will hopefully reduce the amount of families in poverty. And it'll, in return, reduce the need for government support programs. So stuff like welfare, food stamps, and everything like that. If people are making more money, they no longer need to use those government assistance programs. There's also possible improvements for employee morale and retention. That's a big aspect that's not normally talked about. But if you're paying your employees more, they're less likely to actually quit their jobs, which means that you don't have to train or hire people as often, which would improve with your retention rates as well as overall employee morale. Happy workers means better business, right? It also has possible increases to consumer spending. So by putting more money into people's pockets, those people are taking that money and going out and spending it and pumping it back into the economy. So these are all great arguments for minimum wage. I got two graphs here to show basically minimum wage and productivity versus actual minimum wage. So this basically is showing what minimum wage was and the value of it back in 1948 through 2013. And then I got this next slide here and it's showing it from 1940 through 2020, a little bit more updated graphic here for you. As you see here, it's minimum wage, if it were to track that same productivity, it's somewhere near that $25 range now in 2020. A few of the current events that are going on right now is California recently raised its minimum wage to $14 for companies with more than 26 employees. So for a little bit bigger businesses, they have to pay that $14. For businesses with less than 26 employees, it is $13 an hour. That makes California, for those 26 plus employee businesses, the state with the highest hourly rate. Washington State is slightly behind at $13.69. But if you take account for those under 26 employee businesses, Washington is still the highest. President Biden recently passed a $15 minimum wage bill for federal contract employees, as well as Hawaii had halted the bill for the minimum wage increase. Basically, what that means is they had put a halt on it just because they wanted to give small businesses some more time to recuperate after the pandemic. A lot of the small businesses in Hawaii were already struggling, and so they wanted to just not put that additional stress on them by raising the minimum wage. And there's also another big push right now it's called the Fight for 15, and it's with a lot of minimum wage workers are really going after McDonald's and Walmart to try and get them to push their minimum wage up to $15 an hour, so they can actually have hopefully the goal is a living wage and a better standard of living. My opinions basically go through. I have an opinion that like a lot of people agree with. I believe that it should not be up to a federal system. I believe that a state or community should basically decide, what the rate per hour is for that area. People in Wyoming should not be making the same amount as people in California. There's two completely different costs and two completely different markets. I am also very much so in support of what California did and having different minimum wages based on business sizes. Small businesses cannot sustain the same amount of labor costs as larger businesses. They're not quite as profitable sometimes, and they're just starting off, and we need those small businesses. And I am not in support of completely removing minimum wage. I think it's something that was there for a reason when it was put in. I do think that it needs to be looked at and adapted to current times in order to benefit our society in the best way possible. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.